A few isolated showers this far, which are high near 85. And then showers, occasional thunderstorms Wednesday. Highs on Wednesday right around 75. I think Thursday will be nice and sunny with our high very comfortable in the low to mid 60s. From the Parkland's 24-hour weather center, I'm meteorologist Sally Russell.
Hi, this is Julie Berghaus with Parkland Health Mart Pharmacy, and I would love to invite you to stop in our store at 806 Valley Creek Drive, next door to Dollar General, and check out what sets us apart. Friendly and helpful staff, free delivery Monday through Friday to your work or home, convenient drive-through window, competitive prices, and top quality services make us the perfect choice for you and your family. Don't wait in line any longer. Let us welcome you as a member of our pharmacy family today. Give us a call at 747-1191 or check us out online at parklandrx.com.
Trust AM 1240 KFMO and B104 for the information you need when severe weather threatens the parkland. I'm meteorologist Dan Holliday.
A few stronger storms and also some storms with heavy rain in the forecast.
Damaging wind and hail are the main things to watch out for today and tonight.
Our team of meteorologists provide the latest forecast around the clock.
I'm meteorologist Jennifer Naramore.
A cluster of thunderstorms were bringing some heavier rainfall.
A few isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out.
Accurate and dependable.
I'm staff meteorologist Sally Russell.
High-end chance for hefty storms producing heavy rain.
The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather.
The info you need to stay informed.
I'm staff meteorologist Steve Hamilton.
The main threat today is going to be more rain, large hail, damaging winds.
Still looking at a ripe atmosphere for more showers and thunderstorms to blossom.
Severe thunderstorms today. They will be possible, so keep up to date with the latest weather information.
When severe weather breaks out, we'll break in with the latest updates on B104 and AM 1240 KFMO.
Welcome back to the Morning Drive at AM 1240 KFMO. It's Monday, October 8th. The time is 7:32, and it's time to begin the first of our political forums here on AM 1240. It is for the St. Francis County Prosecuting Attorney's race, and we are scheduled to have Melissa Gilliam, who's the Republican candidate, and Jerrod Mahurin, the Democratic incumbent candidate for the race. All candidates were contacted and made aware of the start time, which was 7:30 for the show. We're a little bit late starting because we were waiting on Melissa Gilliam. She's not made it in yet. Perhaps something something unexpected has come up to hold her, and hopefully she'll be here in a few minutes. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and talk with Democratic incumbent candidate Jerrod Mahurin. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really glad that both of you agreed to come here to talk about your thoughts on the race and everything. And I guess we'll just jump right in. And the first thing I wanted to ask was if you'd tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, and all of that background information.
Absolutely, glad to. Well, I grew up in the area, lived here my entire life. Went to Central through 5th grade, and then my parents moved from a little spot we had in Esther to out by Cedar Lake, and so I transferred to North County in 6th grade. Finished up my school there, and was very fortunate to make a lot of new friends right away, and then I played on the sports teams. Very fortunate also to win a state championship my senior year for baseball. After that, I went to 1 year at junior college on a baseball scholarship at East Central in Union, Missouri. Then I transferred to William Penn, which is a small private school up in Iowa. Played baseball up there, and I majored in history and government and minored in psychology. And after I got done there, I took 1 year, kind of made some decisions on how I was going to proceed with law school, raised a little bit of money to help offset some of the expenses, and then I went to law school at Oklahoma City. Came back from there, and I got married while I was in law school to my wife, Laura, who was a Farmington graduate. And when we came back home, we had decided to start a family and law practice at the same time, which is a little daunting, but did all that kind of at the same time, and I practiced for about a year and a half. I had my own office in Farmington, kind of did just a little bit of everything. I did some civil work, did a little bit of criminal defense, and then once there was a position that became available as an assistant prosecutor, I applied and was hired by Wendy Horn at that time, and I was an assistant for about 3.5 years. And then when Judge Horn now got appointed by Governor Jay Nixon, he then appointed me to be the prosecuting attorney, and after that, I ran in 2014 and did not have an opponent at that time. Was elected and have been the prosecutor ever since. So that's kind of the biographical on me. I was raised in a union family around here and lived here my entire life. And basically, the thing for me is that I love the area, I love the people here, and I want to continue to serve them. I want to continue to help them. When you go into public service, the first thing, and mainly the only thing you have to worry about is, are you helping people around where you live? And that's what I want to do.
Very good report there. It sounds like you covered just about every question I had for the next couple of minutes. But thanks for the information. That's interesting to know. So we can tell by that description that you have the experience, some qualifications. Anything particular about those you'd like to tell us?
Sure. Let me talk a little bit about the qualifications. Whenever I was an assistant prosecutor, obviously most assistants, I think, start out and they kind of learn the ropes of, some of the smaller cases. You may learn the traffic docket first, and then you learn some misdemeanor cases. You learn felonies on up. And it's good to learn the system that you're in. It's good to learn, I did my work here in St. Francis County. It's good to learn kind of what type of offers are the typical offers around here. What kind of cases are the typical kind of cases we see. The fact is, since I've been the prosecutor, I've had over 20 murder cases, which is more than any other prosecutor in St. Francis County history. So, when you compare that even around the state to other elected prosecutors, even counties our size or maybe even a little bigger, you just don't see that type of caseload for homicides. And again, I'm only including murders. I'm not including manslaughter cases or anything like that. It would be up closer to 40 or 50 when we got to that number. But because I've worked on those cases, because I've had these high-profile sex cases and these murder cases, it certainly makes you get more involved. It certainly makes you get closer to the victims you bring in, and that means for every case. The two things that I always talk about is, one, you have to be fair but firm with every case that you dispose of. But at the same time, you have to take account for every victim that comes in. You cannot just look at a case and say, well, it's hard, so I'm just going to give it away, or it's too difficult and I just won't prosecute or I won't file it. That's not seeking justice. And whenever you have a case where you look at it and you say, okay, I have a murder victim's family here, and they want me to go to trial. They want their day in court. That's what you should do as a prosecutor. Even if the case is tough, even if you have to make that tough decision, you should be confident enough in your skills, you should be confident enough in the facts, and you should go forward with it. Don't get me wrong, there are a ton of cases that get pled out. I mean, that's across the nation. I would say it's 95% or more of cases get pled out, and I would think that's the norm. If it was much more than that, the system would be so backlogged you couldn't do anything. But again, it's learning the system, it's learning St. Francis County and its people, and being able to work within that confines of that and to prosecute those cases accordingly.
I wanted to ask you about the opioid epidemic, and if you're elected, what could the prosecutor's office and what would the prosecutor's office under your leadership do to fight that?
Okay, well, I think there's a couple things that we need to focus on. Mm-hmm. One of those, obviously, I've already been doing it and trying to look at the people that are dispensing these pills. And by that, I mean, obviously, you have physicians that are giving the pills out, and that's certainly an understandable thing. People have pain, people need to be treated, but whenever you look at it from the people that are selling the drugs, we have to come down harder on those people, because it's not their addiction that they're pushing, it's other people's addiction they're preying on. And whenever you prey on someone else's addiction, you enable them and you allow this epidemic to become more widespread than it already is. So we have to be harder on the people that are selling these opioids or giving them away to other people. The other thing that we need to do, and I hope to do this on a countywide scale, is to make a public request to each municipality. I don't know that a lot of people know this or not, but every controlled substance is scheduled, depending on which level it is by the DEA. Mm-hmm. So whenever you look at these different schedules, well, almost every pill that you see that is on the schedule is a felony. Well, I mean, every pill that is scheduled is a felony. So when you look at it and you say, okay, that means it's a felony, so it should come to the prosecuting attorney's office. Well, there are a multitude of municipalities within the county, and a lot of them have what they call a pill ordinance, which means that if an officer were to find pills on you, they could run that through the city. Well, which person wouldn't take a $500 fine or a $300 fine on what is actually a felony case? So what I would ask is that every municipality rescind their pill ordinance and make sure that every case comes to the state, because if we are able to work within a unilateral system, we can be consistent across the board. If we take pills and we say, okay, we understand first you have an addiction, we need to work with that addiction, whether that be drug court, whether that be treatment. You have to understand that it's an addiction. It's not just a crime. It's people are fighting themselves. So we have to be able to help them first and foremost. Now, the people that are just selling the drugs, you have to be hard on them because they're the ones that are causing this problem. It's not the person that goes and maybe takes a couple too many pills one time or maybe has a couple extra. Yes, that's a crime, and you have to deal with it. But there are other options available. There, like I said, there's treatment available. There's drug court. There's probation. There's a lot of things we can do to work with them. But you have to be linear. And if somebody, and again, I'm not going to name the municipalities that have the ordinances, but if you're in one municipality and you say, well, if I've got these pills, it may be a $300 or $500 fine. But if I'm a town over, well, now I could go to prison or worse, something like that. Then you have to look at it and say, well, that's why we have these pockets that kind of pop up and people are using them in certain areas. So I would hope to make sure that we stop that across the county and obviously educate people more. We have to tell them, that if it's a problem and we have the Good Samaritan law now. So if people are overdosing or using, if somebody calls in, the Good Samaritan law allows people to not be prosecuted for certain crimes when they're reporting overdoses. So we look at these things, we take everything into account, make sure that we treat the people that need treatment, and the people that are pushing, we make sure we punish.
So what I'm hearing is, first of all, I should say probably that I've heard some people say a good conviction rate is a good prosecutor, and we should elect that person. But it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, there may be a lot more to the story, and that's what I'm thinking is that this goes much deeper than just a conviction rate.
Well, true. And again, I don't often pat myself on the back, but I do have an extremely high conviction rate. Mm-hmm. And I mean that at trial conviction rate. Out of the trials that I've had, and I'm including all bench trials and all jury trials, it is somewhere 97 point something percent. I think it's 97.2% that I've convicted at trial. Does that mean I'm a good trial attorney? Probably, but at the same token, it means that I use the facts and I use officers and the evidence to my advantage. That doesn't mean that every person that comes in front of me gets a conviction. I oftentimes look at different availabilities of putting people in treatment programs, giving them drug court, working with them on private probation. There are a lot of different avenues that I use. Yes, at a trial, yes, I do have a high conviction rate. And that is a good metric to test prosecutors by, because if not, what else do you have? You have how you treat victims, first and foremost, and then you have how successful are you at trial. Because any person with a bar license can go into the office and say, well, I'm going to cut a deal on every case, or I'm going to just make everybody happy. We can't do that. And you can't just try the easy ones. So you have to say, if I have a prosecutor, am I confident this prosecutor is going to be successful? Well, I've proven that I am successful at trial, and I've proven that not only in the cases that, the drug cases or the maybe assault cases, but I've proven that in the high-profile sex crimes with children. I've proven that in murder cases. And again, people often ask me, victims come in and they'll say, what is your conviction rate? I'm happy to tell them. I often tell them, too, look, I don't win every one of them. I don't think any prosecutor can. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you that based on my conviction rate, based on the way that I interact with the jury, I think I'm very confident in what we can do in this case. And it puts a lot of victims at ease, and it makes them feel comfortable that they know they have a prosecutor that is forthcoming with the truth and what you can tell them about yourself. Often whenever I tell people, I haven't won every case, they say, well, I wouldn't expect you to, but thank you for telling me that. So, the two metrics I think you can measure a prosecutor is how you interact with victims and how successful are you at trial. And it's very easy to find those things. Any prosecutor across the state of Missouri, all you have to do is request your carpel printout, and basically it takes about 10 minutes. So when you push the button, it shows you the trials that you've had, and it shows everything else you've got.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about other resources like the drug courts. Are there other courts like that, and would you make more use of them if you had them available?
Absolutely. Whenever, I guess it was shortly after I became prosecutor, the 24th Circuit decided they wanted to start a DWI court program. And again, this is for people that have minimal other history. We don't look for people that have violent history. Same with drug court. But we also look to use the DWI court program, and DWIs come through there, and we prosecute those, and they're put on different types of probation, so to speak, through John Roop. The other program that I've been working on very recently is the Veterans Court, and I've been talking with John Roop, who's the drug court and DWI court commissioner, and hope to get that started here very shortly. And this would allow us to use misdemeanors or felonies and put people in these programs and allow them to have different resources available if they're veterans and they've, of course, served our country, and allow them to go through a different program other than district prosecution. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the answers to the questions and the background information and all of that. It looks like your opponent is here, so we're going to talk with Melissa Gilliam now, who is the Republican candidate for the position. Good morning, Melissa. How are you today?
Good morning. How are you?
Great. It's good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it. First thing I wanted to do was just have you tell us about yourself. Tell us where you're from, and give us a little background information about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So I am from Farmington. I live there now, and I actually grew up there. So I graduated in 1991, went to Mizzou, went to UMKC for law school. After graduating from UMKC in 1995, 98, sorry. So I went on to Colorado. I became a deputy district attorney in Colorado Springs for 2 years, and then I moved back to St. Louis. I became a prosecutor in the city for about 15 years, and now I'm back here in Farmington living with my 4-year-old son and my husband.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you're a Farmington alum, correct?
I am.
Well, so am I. And I had a mother-in-law that lived in Colorado Springs for a while.
Did you?
So I thought that was
beautiful area.
That was kind of unique, you know.
It's beautiful.
Tell me about your, you did experience there a little bit, special qualifications that you think you have, and why you want to be the prosecuting attorney for St. Francis County.
Sure, absolutely. So for those 17 years of being a prosecutor, I started out in misdemeanors. Then I went to drugs, guns, property crimes. I handled homicides for about 10 years. I ended my career in the white-collar unit, where I was handling stealing, fraud, forgeries. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lot of different experiences as a prosecutor. I had the benefit of working under Jennifer Joyce, who had a lot of experience communicating with the public. I think the change has to be made in this county, and I think I'm the one to do it.
Very good. Tell me about the opioid epidemic. This is a question I really didn't have a chance to discuss with you ahead of time, but we had talked about the opioid epidemic and what the prosecuting attorney can do to help curb that, and how you might approach that problem.
Sure, absolutely. Last year in 2017, the St. Francis County Commission passed an ordinance where we became a part of the St. Louis County prescription drug monitoring program. And since that time, they've issued 2 reports. And in both of those reports, St. Francis County was the #1 prescriber out of all the counties involved in the program of opioids. So that's concerning, because out of 1,000 people, there were over 2,300 prescriptions. So that means that some people in the county have over 2 prescriptions of opioids. That's a problem. It shows that these are being prescribed. Opioids, obviously, by prescription, are how people end up addicted. And once their tolerance goes up, they're seeking more, and they're looking for heroin or other types of drugs to meet that same high. So we need to get at the root of the problem. We need to have programs in place. We need to get out there and talk to the doctors that are prescribing these, find out where the issues are there. I know that some of the hospitals have doctors who come in from out of town. They travel on a circuit, so they may not be local. And they're not required to check the prescription monitoring before they prescribe them. So let's get in and start talking to them about checking it before they prescribe it, in order to find out if somebody already has a prescription.
Right.
But also we need to look at different ways of handling the people who come into the criminal justice system who are addicted. Currently, right now, our drug court has 6 participants in it from St. Francis County. That needs to be higher. We need to be looking at alternatives to incarceration when their only crime is addiction. So I think there are a lot of resources out there that are available to us, and they're not being utilized, and I plan to do that.
You had been asked about conviction rate, and we talked about that before your arrival today as something that voters might look at, when they go to the polls. Well, this person has a lot of convictions, so let's elect him. Absolutely. But there's a lot more to it, I believe, than that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, if you've tried 100 cases, you could only lose 3 in order to have a 97% conviction rate. So I think that's unrealistic. I certainly, coming from the city, didn't have a 97% conviction rate, but that's okay because sometimes there's cases that are tough and they have to be tried because the victims deserve their day in court. So, conviction rate is certainly important, but we need to look at more than that. We need to look at justice and achieving justice for the victims of crimes, but also be mindful of the constitutional rights of the defendants and not infringe on those either.
Certainly. And when you talk about drug courts, are there other courts available, and would you try to make use of those? I've heard of things from drug courts and veterans courts and
Absolutely.
Things like that.
Absolutely. We have a DUI court that is currently being underutilized. We have the drug courts. There's a veterans court that is available and services St. Francis County, and to this date I've only heard of 2 people that have been able to utilize it. It requires the recommendation of the prosecutor in order for them to be admitted into it, and it is available, and it can be servicing veterans in this area right now, and I intend to look into ways to make that more available so that the veterans who are entering the criminal justice system, they get the help they need.
It sounds like you have the message that we always tell each other in our departments here. Communication.
Oh, absolutely.
Communication.
Absolutely.
That's the thing that we find sometimes the radio station is a problem, even between radios. That you would think the radio station would have great, but once in a while that happens. And I think from what I'm hearing from both candidates, communication is very important. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think communication with the public is important so that they understand what's going on. And I learned a lot about that under Jennifer because she often kept the public apprised on certain cases that were being charged and the dispositions. She used Twitter a lot. I'm not a big Twitter user, but I'm happy to learn in order to get more information out to the public. Education as to what's going on in the criminal justice system is key. A lot of times people don't understand the terminology we throw around because we know it like the back of our hand. So education is key. Also communication. The lines of communication between the prosecutor's office and the public need to be open, and also between the police departments in the area. I've talked to a lot of police officers. They've expressed issues with communication with the office currently. So that needs to change because if they have questions or need information, we should be available to them in order to make sure that they are able to get their questions answered and any resources they need. And also amongst each other, help facilitate the coordination of communication between the various police departments, see what issues they're facing in their particular area and see, what issues travel across the county from Bonne Terre, Leadington, Park Hills, Farmington. What issues are they all facing? Is it one particular person? Are drug dealers leaving one area to go to the other? So get more information out there so people understand what's going on.
I want to give you an opportunity to talk to you on the phone about this question, I guess, or what I would pose to you as being one issue you'd like to work on, maybe a big challenge for the office. Anything on your mind like that?
Well, clearly the biggest issue that'll be facing me would be the opioid, as we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that is become an issue. The statistics continue to rise every year. We are in ER visits due to opioid abuse, we are number 2 in the state out of all of the counties from 2012 to 2016. And out of 114 counties, plus St. Louis City making 115, we're 11th in deaths due to opioid overdoses. So that's clearly important to address. But also, as we just talked about, I would like to address the transparency of the office, get more information out to the public, and the communication as well.
Mm-hmm. So there's a Sunshine Law seminar in the area. Would you change anything about the way things are run?
Well, absolutely.
With that,
for me, I would never pretend to be an expert in the Sunshine Law. I did handle a few requests when I was in white collar unit in St. Louis City, but I'm certainly no expert. I would love to be able to attend that conference. I would love to get more information on how to enable the public to get more information. And I think it's important for the public to be able to request certain information and get it.
Sure.
A lot of times for us, what we dealt with were attorneys who wanted to come in and get information on cases to, look at them.
Sure. Right.
So there needs to be an easy way in order for them to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's the Sunshine Law to me is, I don't want to say a mystery, being the news director, of course, but, it's something that is out there and everybody knows it's there, but it's a little mysterious at this point, I guess. I don't know why.
There's a lot of talk about it, about what the citizens are able to have access to their information. What's a closed meeting? What's an open meeting? What's a closed record?
Right.
A lot of times with criminal cases, it's not open until the investigation is closed. So that has to be, the investigation has to be finished as well. And sometimes those issues can come up with if a case is dismissed, but the statute of limitations hasn't run, and maybe they're looking for additional evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously at that point, the information cannot be given out. So there's a lot of different areas to look at with it, and I look forward to learning more about it, hopefully through this seminar.
Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to add? We still have a couple of minutes left in your time, so I didn't know if you'd have anything you just want to say that maybe we hadn't touched upon at this point.
I think I've covered it all. I want to, if I could, give a shout-out to my brother-in-law, Jim Kellogg, who's in town from California. He's leaving today, so we'll miss him.
Well, that sounds like a good trip.
He did have a good trip. They went and saw the snakes on Saturday, so they didn't get to see as many as they wanted to, but they got 3. No. They got to see 3.
There you go. That sounds interesting. I know were they flying around LAX there at all, or somewhere else?
No. He flew into town from California. The snake trip I was in.
That's just such
Cape Girardeau, I think.
Just such a crazy airport.
Oh, LAX, yeah.
Especially when you come out and you go way up.
He's farther north in San Jose.
I see. All right. Well, thanks to both of you for being here this morning. I certainly appreciate it. Melissa Gilliam, the Republican candidate for St. Francis County Prosecuting Attorney, and, of course, incumbent Democratic candidate Jerrod Mahurin. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it very much. That's our political forum for this morning here on AM 1240 KFMO. We have just about a minute and a half or so before CBS Worldwide News.